Hello, fifth graders. This video is to just basically go over a summary of the lesson we're working on right now called the Middle Colonies. And as we talked about, the Middle Colonies, there's four of them. Let me scroll down. You have New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware. They are going to be making up the four Middle Colonies. And not all of them started as English colonies. As you read, New York was originally called New Netherland. And they named it New Netherland because they were from the Netherlands, a country over in Europe. And they made a big city called New Amsterdam. Amsterdam was the capital and still is the capital of the Netherlands. And so they weren't very creative with their names. They just said, let's just put the word new in front of it. And so New York at first was called New Netherlands, and it belonged to people from Holland, which we call, they're Dutch. If you're from Holland, you're known as Dutch. And one thing about New York is its location is right by the ocean here, really good for all these different things that you read about. Fishing, also fur-bearing animals, timber, things like that. So people from all over the world came to New York. Not New York at the time, New Netherlands at the time, and they were tolerant of that. They understood there's going to be all kinds of people there. They didn't care what religion you were or where you were from. They were accepting of everybody. And looking in your notes here, it says the English took New Netherland. King Charles II gave his brother, the Duke of York, all of the land between the Delaware rivers and Connecticut, including New Netherland. So the King of England gave his brother a gift of land the king didn't even own. The Dutch were there first, but yet the king said, here, my brother, you can have it. So they showed up with their ships in the harbor. And if you watched the video last week that I had on YouTube from Friday, then you'll see that the British, or I should say the English, arrived with this massive naval fleet, which means ships. The Navy is ships on water. And the Dutch saw this. The colonists were like, we don't want to fight. We can't. But the governor of New Netherland, the leader, a governor is the leader of the colony, said, yeah, I want to fight. The Dutch colonists like, no, we don't have a chance. They're the strongest. They're the most powerful navy in the world. We don't have a chance. So the colonists, or the Dutch colonists, gave up without a shot being fired. They said, here, you can have it. So then when the English took over, New Netherland was renamed New York, and New Amsterdam became New York City. So that is how New York became one of the 13 English colonies. Well, the Duke of York, who was in charge of New York, gave part of his New York to some of his friends, and they called it New Jersey. So on the green there, named after Jersey Island over in England. So they just popped the word new in front of it again. And settlers were promised religious freedom and a voice in government, but they had to pay a tax. So the English allowed anybody there too, just like the Dutch had allowed all kinds of religions and people from all over the world. The English did the same thing. They allowed the people to still live in New York. And as you can see there was a diverse population. That term diverse means variety. So there was German people living in there. There was Dutch, so people from Holland. There are Irish people there from Ireland. English people live there. Quakers, we'll talk a little bit about Quakers in a little bit, and Swedish settlers. So Swedish settlers being people from Sweden. So as you read in the lesson here, all kinds of different people made up New York and New Jersey. And one thing about New York and New Jersey, and also Pennsylvania and Delaware, is they had good land there for farming. Let me start over. They were called the breadbasket of the colonies because of a lot of corn, wheat, and oats that were grown on farms like you see in this picture there. So farming was an important part of the middle colonies. So then the other ones, things to pay attention to, as you read about here, is how they worked with each other. They taught each other how to do things. Just an example of being tolerant of each other, not saying, oh, you're German or you're Swede or things like that. I'm not going to work with you. They worked together and they taught each other how to do things. So it was really cool. It would have been, to me, really cool to be a part of the middle colonies here and just seeing all the different people, hearing all the different languages and things like that. So then the other colonies are Pennsylvania and Delaware. William Penn lived in England. He was a member of what we call the Society of Friends or Quakers. So you can see right above, right where the cursor is. Um, go down here. And remember at the time in England, you had to belong to the Church of England. Well, the Quakers didn't want to belong to the Church of England. So they wanted a place to practice their religion. So William Penn went to King Charles II and to talk about this. Well, King Charles owed money to William Penn's father. Uh, William Penn's father died, but the king was still in debt to the family. So King Charles said, okay, William Penn, I owe your father money. I will give you land in the New World if you will accept that in return for the debt. So the money he owed. William Penn said, yes, I would like that. And he named the colony Pennsylvania, or Penn's Wood, in honor of his father. So that's where Pennsylvania comes from. The first settlement he built was Philadelphia, right on a river. So you can see on this map right here, Philadelphia, right on a river, which was very important then because rivers, oceans were the way people traveled. Quakers soon now had a place to go and live their lives the way they wanted to. So it's very important for them. They now had a home. So as you see here, Pennsylvania would be settled right here. The first settlement was Philadelphia, which means city of brotherly love. It became an important center for trade along the Delaware River. Penn was one of the few people who paid the Native Americans for their land. So he was a very respectful person that you can see right there. He didn't want to just come and take the land. He wanted to make a fair exchange with the Native Americans. But when he died, that would change, unfortunately. Pennsylvania attracted people from many different religions and backgrounds. So just like New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania was also welcoming of all kinds of people. Delaware was a part of New Sweden. So even the Swedes were having people over here. The colonists wanted to make their own laws. So Penn said, okay, you can have your own colony. He worked it out with the colonists in New Sweden. And soon Delaware formed its own colony and became one of the English colonies there. This term assembly is one we're going to be learning about later on. Assembly is a group of people that make laws for that colony. So each colony will have their own assembly. And as I mentioned earlier, the rivers in the middle colonies allowed for a lot of trade. Farming made the colonies very successful. So just like I mentioned, being the breadbasket of the colony. So that's farming is going to be an important place. Please let me know if you have any questions. Make sure if you haven't done so yet, read through those notes again. Tomorrow, you'll be answering the questions on the New England colonies. So thank you for watching. Have a good rest of your day. Take care. Bye.